Hi everyone. Today is a big day and the first episode of the podcast about female entrepreneurs on their way to the top. And I'm excited because today I have an amazing and talented woman with us, Sharifa Sayed Amar, with whom we'll talk about her journey. My name is Yulia Bilik. I am a founder of a no dress code program for women who want to build digital products but don't know how to code. And quick prehistory of how I met Sharifa. Sharifa was participating in the program that I've created, No Dress Code. Sharifa, would you like to tell us more about your background and a bit about yourself?
Sounds good. Thank you, Yulia, for having me. I didn't realize this was the first episode, so I'm excited to hopefully talk about my experience a little bit more today. So my name is Sharifa. I am from Malaysia. I'm a senior human factors engineer working in medical device product development. But having said that, I do not have much experience working with digital tech products, specifically in building tech products from scratch. Um, so when I wanted to get into the program, my thought was, this seems like a cool program to learn more and build skills to build products from scratch, despite not knowing how to code. A little bit more about my background. I work for a U.S. company currently living in Lisbon, but I studied I had an engineering degree. Despite all of this, I still don't feel like I have a lot of confidence in building anything from scratch, and because I don't really know how to code. So yeah. Is that enough of an introduction? Should I say more?
Sure. What is your connection with entrepreneurship, or what in general inspired you to go this path?
Yes, so I've always I love design thinking and building. I learned a lot of that in engineering school. Once I get into corporate work experience, there's definitely a little bit less of that. Not much of, building and seeing the whole process. Currently, I'm part of a small process within the whole design development, but for a little bit more complex products like medical devices. So I have this desire, and I've always had this desire to learn more and build something from scratch. Um, Maybe I'm not as, I don't have a lot of passion and drive as, other tech founders out there, but, never say never. And I know skills like this, they're a compounding effect. So whatever that I'm doing today could mean a lot in the next 5-10 years. So yeah, that's inspired. That's what inspired me to. And I always say this, like any opportunities that come up to me at like 3 a.m. or like 2 a.m. usually turn out good. And that's how I find out about the program. I saw it in one of the WhatsApp group on living in Lisbon or something like that. And it came to me at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. So I was like, okay, I have to fill this in and apply for the program. And that's what happened.
That's amazing. And so your interest or design thinking, it comes from your already corporate experience, or did it start even before?
Yes and yes. For having had an engineering degree, I learned a lot about design thinking, and the whole process of, because that's what engineers are, or when we went to engineering school, we talk about we're the builders, we learn how to build. So there was a lot of that within my education, but I never really pursued it in terms of applying it into building real stuff myself, if that makes any sense. And then obviously at work as well, because I work with other engineers, designers in building medical devices and products. There's a lot of design thinking in that sense as well, but never in terms of entrepreneurship or building something for other people to use at a more accessible level.
So what is for you entrepreneurship? Oh, yeah, what is entrepreneurship?
What is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship are for me is it's a opportunity for it's business, but it's more than just building business. You're building opportunities for others. And usually how I differ entrepreneurship versus like just normal business is that there's a real motivation, passion behind, it's not just an opportunity to make money per se. It has an underlying motivation, or a little bit more kindred spirit than just making money, if if I can say that.
I will challenge that because
Okay.
it's not
You
really
think
the case.
entrepreneurship is all about making money?
Yes, I think entrepreneurship is about making money because yes, it's entrepreneurship for me is like more about innovation rather than business, because business is more like following the traditional already existing business model, while entrepreneurship involves a bit more risks. But overall, when it comes to like the things that you are talking about, it sounds like impact. So someone who wants to create impact with the work that they are doing, and there is a certain type of entrepreneurship which is an impact entrepreneurship. So that's probably the thing that we are, yeah, that you were talking about. But coming back to what you said about your own drivers, so for me it seems that you're most like, or you perceive the entrepreneurship path or product development path as a challenge for your mind. So it's interesting to you to go this way because like you have like, yeah, your mind is being challenged, but you might not necessarily have other drivers that entrepreneurs have, like income drivers. And and we can talk openly about that because really like entrepreneurship, that's why I asked the previous question, like that entrepreneurship is like consists of several elements which somehow I think should come together in person to be able to drive them. So what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think that's a very, very good observation. I do believe, like, entrepreneurship is all about, working on an idea and then seeing it through wherever that lands. And like you said, maybe a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, or founders that I know, they're very driven people who doesn't want to be in the same sort of um, like corporate world or making income, like anyone else. And they want to have that freedom, a lot of the times. And obviously a lot of the times these people are also a little bit more risk averse, and like taking that challenge that way. I do agree. I do not have a lot of these same drivers. As far as I started working quite early. I started earning quite early. From when I was in college, I already worked like part time for, I was a teaching assistant, research assistant. I was a paid mentor while I was in college, and started earning. And coming from the background that I am, I came from a very uh, small town in Malaysia. And Malaysia is also like it's a developing country. It's not much, but we are good people. We have good brains. And so coming from the background that I was, and then I went to the US to study. I started earning, well, as a student. I don't think it was very easy for me to just then let go of that consistency in income, for me to have that driver of, making more income using, through pathway of entrepreneurship. I definitely think most entrepreneurship, or at least the ones that I respect, would be the ones that have a sort of an impact. And if I were to do one, if I were to get into it, it's definitely something that because for me, it's a differentiator between business and entrepreneurship. Um, like you said, maybe one innovation, but I do feel like impact is another different key differentiator of, why people go into a traditional business versus wanting to challenge the whole idea of concept, means of entrepreneurship. Yeah, that's a little bit of my thought, but yeah. I would like to think that if I was I'm not sure if I was younger. I'm not that young anymore, so maybe that's also a little bit why I'm not, as risk averse. Maybe I do see myself at some point building something on my own. Uh, Maybe in the next like 5 years, 10 years. But I do want to get or come across into something that I'm really passionate about, an idea that I feel like, spark joy and like really spark this drive in me. Um, but so far, I haven't come across that. And one could say, I could just start working on something right now and wait until that idea come as I go, because that's usually how entrepreneurship starts, right? Like you work on one idea and then you realize it doesn't work, and then you modify it, and then to some extent that process itself get you to the idea that you then are very, very passionate about. So that one part, I guess, that yeah. I feel like this is almost becoming a therapy session for me, and asking like, why, Sharifa, why are you not pursuing entrepreneurship?
No, it's not about why you are not pursuing it. It's about like about also why you are pursuing it, because if you were not like already making steps in that direction, probably we would not be having now this interview. And but you mentioned leaders that inspire you and entrepreneurs that inspire you. So could you name some exact figures who are making impact with entrepreneurship?
um I have one YouTuber that I feel like I consistently sort of like follow and listen to his podcasts. His name is Ali Abdal, and recently he wrote a book about something about productivity, but he's a productivity guru basically on YouTube. I feel like he has a lot of good ideas on how to maximize our time and being efficient and being productive. And he started with a podcast. His background is medicine, but he started with a podcast, and then later on started writing a book, and um, and building digital products as well. So he's probably one of the. Is that what was the question? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a question.
do I have anyone else that to be quite honest, not really. I have a few friends who have been on the path of entrepreneurship for a while, and I support them with my whole heart. I know the struggles, and I know the joy that they get from this pathway as well. Yeah. And my dad was also, I would say, an entrepreneur at some point. He had his own digital website business. And it was quite at a rare time where people wasn't working on it yet. So I felt like he kind of paved that way a little bit in Malaysia at the time. And I've also seen the struggles that come with it, having your own, business and being responsible for, income of like other people and stuff, the ups and downs on that, of having your own thing. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit jaded. I'm like, no, I need a more stable, stable income. But yeah, I wouldn't oppose though, like, but not right now.
Yeah, that's like I'm still thinking about what you said before, that for you entrepreneurship is about impact. And yeah, I mean, I cannot disagree with it, because like even on the beginning of entrepreneurship, yes, it's about thinking in a like uncommon way and changing the perspective, which is already like should create certain impact. But then when it grows, because like the company we now talking about, those are companies which are huge, right? And companies which have a lot of customers. So while such thing grows, there is no way it cannot cause the impact on people. So not necessarily are talking about like social or like environmental positive changes or causes, but there is an impact in the negative or positive side. I think it can be both. I think it can
Voice.
be both. Yeah. And you mentioned a YouTuber that you are watching. What's the name of him again?
Ali Abdal.
Okay. Later, if you can share with me his name, would be awesome. I'll put it in the description. And what other content do you consume around entrepreneurship, if any? Let me reshape the question. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, reshaping the question, would you say that now in your info field, you have a lot of content around entrepreneurship or not so much? Is it more like work related, like around the healthcare innovations?
So there's this whole thing about like you're asking this question. There's this whole thing about like your diet and your consumption, and that includes sort of media consumption, food consumption, people consumption, um, and it does produce sort of a bias. If you start consuming everything about productivity, you kind of be a little bit more productive. If you start consuming a lot of content about health, you get that way. Right now, I think a lot of I don't consume too much content from some social media or generally at this point right now. But when I do, I can think of a few people. For example, on my Instagram, I'm following this girl who talks a lot about AI. It is an area that I have been interested in getting to know a little bit more, and finding out ways on how I could bridge what I'm doing as a field with and taking advantage of AI technologies. So I'm watching a lot of that AI tech content from this girl. I can share after. And then there's also on my YouTube, because I've watched Ali Abdal stuff for a while, so his stuff would just come up. Um, and he talks a lot about productivity and life. I think that's mostly it that I can remember thinking about. Obviously, I have a lot of content from work, just talking to people from work. I would have meetings like, sometimes 5, 6 meetings talking about medical devices and like risks and how to get your products out there and helping my clients. So I guess that's also a lot of the content that I consume these days.
And
Do you have any recommendation for, as an entrepreneur yourself, any recommendation for some of the content that you consume in regards to the topic?
sure. I do, like, I'm not a podcast person, so I would not go deep into that direction.
Mhm.
But I somehow now, like,
Now you have to be a podcast person.
somehow now, my like LinkedIn is my
Yeah.
main source for
Oh,
the content. So I'm following some very interesting like entrepreneurs and like leaders, and or like also people in different stages of the journey, but normally, yeah, like experienced entrepreneurs have more to share. So there are a lot of interesting cases about like interesting marketing strategies, creative approaches, like these little growth hacks. So my feed consists to follow that, and I think that's also what is shaping my way of thinking.
yeah.
I can share some later, indeed.
Sounds
I,
good. Julia, I know this is like I am sort of like the guest in this, but like I do have a question. How do you define, if I might ask, how do you find success in your entrepreneurship journey? You are an entrepreneur yourself.
how do I define success?
Or do you feel like it needs to even be defined at this point?
Yes, I don't feel like it needs to be defined, but what I am like going for, like for sure, like as an entrepreneur, I do have ambitions. So I do have certain vision of myself in the future, of where I want to get, of what sort of impact I want to create.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see a point of like of judging much, myself or like my impact at one exactly moment of time. It's
Mm-hmm.
rather taking it as like as a long um, continuous journey,
Okay.
a journey of accumulated
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and skills,
Mm-hmm.
which means, by making like by constantly working, constantly like moving toward in the direction that I want to go, by like doing, let's say now I'm growing this program, so by doing marketing, by doing sales, by doing like organizing educational like, curriculum, by talking to mentors, by talking to partners, I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting to learn a lot of skills. And maybe now the skills combined, they produce small amount of impact, like we had at the cohort, 14 participants, next cohort maybe will be 30 participants and so on, but those are skills. So at the moment, like 5 years later or like 3 years later, I don't know, but I do really believe that these skills can help me to
Mm-hmm.
at necessary moments to create like a bigger impact. So that's what the success would be. It's constantly, improving, constantly growing, constantly developing, in the right moment, in the right time to like to create, to realize um, your own potential was the biggest benefit of the world and yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the definition of success.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're most welcome. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I do have this fear of, and I don't know, I feel a lot of people probably share the same. Someone asked me recently, like, what is your biggest fear? And I said, like, unfulfilled potential of myself. If I feel like that's probably like one of the things that I'm scared of the most. Uh, yeah.
I do understand that, and I mean for me it's also one of the reasons why I'm starting like this podcast, for example. It's also understand what drives people,
Mm-hmm.
and so my philosophy now in it is that fulfilled potential somehow it's not only things that comes from outside to us, that we have to like blindly follow, but it's
Yeah.
also something we can grow in ourselves.
Yeah.
We can be the one who motivate ourselves to want certain things that we want to achieve. So if we, yeah, it's a bit it's a bit complicated process, and still like it requires like very good understanding of yourself, and your own like background of your own like, yeah, of who you are, but added to good self-awareness, like building on that, you can really like you can find self-fulfillment in many different ways.
I agree.
um,
Recently, I've been trying to mind control myself and believing that I'll be a gym rat. I asked myself, like, because a few days ago it's mid year, right? So I started a little bit of a half year reflection and then have some goals for myself for the next 6 months. I asked myself the question, like, in the next 6 months, like, when by the end of the year, what would I say? What would I want to say? Like, oh, I'm proud of doing or having been done this in the last 6 months. And one goal that came up that I've never been able to so far consistently stick to is going to the gym and taking care of my health. I did this whole of wheel of life. I don't know if you ever heard of dividing your life into certain categories and then sort of evaluating where you are at, and where versus where you want it to be. And then physical health is definitely an area that I've been wanting to improve. And you said something about motivating ourselves, from within, and that's why I'm mentioning this.
how is it now going with the gym?
So far, been going. It's been 2 days since I started this, and it's been 2 days around.
The
We'll
beginning
see
is
us
important.
in the next in the next 3 months or something. But I've never trained my mind in believing. I think motivation comes when you see an actual benefit from something. If you believe that, okay, for me, it's if I see an actual benefit into something and I believe in it, then I think I could easily motivate myself. But obviously, that comes at certain costs, or you're not always at that high level of motivation all the time. But if I see, okay, and I truly believe like going to the gym is going to be good for me. I've never really believed that before. Can you imagine? So now I'm like, hey, I can go to the gym.
So by benefit, you mean immediate outcomes.
Outcomes, yeah.
Yeah,
If
so like immediate outcomes versus long-term outcomes.
Yeah, and it's a little bit hard, I guess, for entrepreneurship, because you don't. It's a little bit, like you said, you're on this continuous journey, and so I think this is why I'm always interested in understanding people's drive and passion when it comes to being an entrepreneur, because you don't always see the immediate outcome from the work that you put in, and for me, that's like a key to having motivation, or for me to being motivated in something.
Yeah, it's a different philosophy for me. So for me, entrepreneurship is about accumulated potential for which allows you with steadily progress, but it's so maybe like slow growth in the beginning and exponential growth in the end. Pretty much what happens to the startups. So you can think of a founder as of the startup.
Yeah, makes sense.
Then could you also share maybe a bit more of your experience with No Dress Code, the program that you took?
Yes. So I have a couple of highlights, I think, from No Dress Code. One, I love the fact that I was able to meet a lot of women who are also on this journey, and it's more than just, I guess, journey of being entrepreneurship. It's also, a lot of it is a lot of people that we met like within the program are very self-introspective and asking themselves these big questions as well. So it's been nice meeting these people. I was put in a group of 5 people in the beginning. And I love the idea of, like, coming I love the process of coming up with an idea and working on an idea. We had an idea to build a platform to make it easier and accessible for people to find places to work at in Lisbon. Obviously, this could be, I think, given the new generation of working remotely or digital nomad, it's definitely a problem, not just in Lisbon, but other cities in the world. So we thought that's a good potential for an idea for us to work on. And it all came like everyone was sharing that they have the same problem, that it's hard to find a good place to work at in Lisbon when there's so many different cafes, there's so many different spaces that you could actually use to work in Lisbon, but somehow finding it is not as easy. So we had the opportunity to work on the idea. I love the fact that within the program, we had different workshops guiding us through the process of building the idea. From the idea generation workshop, and then we had a workshop on how to talk to users and how to get data and how to validate that this idea is, a good idea or not. And then obviously we had a workshop on building prototype. Why do you build prototype? Like, what are you hoping to get from building prototype, and how can you maximize that process? And we also had a workshop, obviously, given that this is a no code program. I love the workshop on the actual building of the product itself. And we had workshops on Bubble. And then recently we used Thunkable, which I was talking to Julia just before this podcast, I guess, started, the difference between the two, and how one was a little bit more user friendly and a little bit more intuitive. But I think there's so many, I didn't realize that there's so many no code tools out there, and the possibility is like limitless basically. But you do have to get into the process of understanding the different no code tool platforms and what are the benefits and cons for each of these platforms before you get into it. But I think just like any other platforms, once you get into one platform, maybe you could have that transferable skills to use a different no-code tool. It is not as easy as it sounds, though. Even though it says no code, I think it does require a little bit of motivation and brain to do this. But it's also not as hard as if you could imagine building a product. I think there was one workshop where we used Thunkable to create a product, and it happened just within the duration of the workshop, an hour or a half, and that was something that I could never imagine before joining this program. So yeah, that's a little bit of a summary of my experience with no dress code. But I really just love all the workshops that you had, Yulia. I feel like you did such a great job in narrating that process very well and finding really cool people to give workshops. And yeah, for me, the biggest thing that I think take away, despite not having enough motivation sometimes to work on the idea itself or finishing, I feel like I've been able to take advantage of all the workshops and gaining a lot of knowledge that way. So yeah, I'm still proud of the my whole journey with no dress code. Despite it's not been an easy process either. I think to get yourself to commit to an idea and really working on it. We had already started talking about motivation and all this stuff, but that goes into it as well, I think.
Absolutely. And even like commitment to all the demands of the program, it's also a big achievement. Even your presence on all the workshops and your ability to really concentrate and have the takeaways from the sessions, it means a lot. And honestly, maybe now it's not like the skills that you are applying as a practice, but I believe that at some moment of time it will come back to you in the right moment, and and bring outcomes. But now, so the program was a bit more than 4 months. It's been a while actually since we started. So looking back, like at 4 months, if you met Sharifa from March 2024, what would you say to yourself? What one advice would you give to yourself?
What would be one advice to give to myself, younger Sharifa? Uh, I think through this program, I've been able to have a little bit better time management. So I think I would tell Sharifa, like a younger Sharifa, to have good time management skills and think about how to best use her time. And I would really just encourage Sharifa to put in the time and the work. I think if she had tried a little bit more, she could manage to gain way more out of this than me now have. But at the same time, like I think life just have its own way of directing you into places and into things, and that's also, I guess, the story of my life. Like life just does happen. I think sometimes I feel like people, yeah, life happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you talk about time management, it sounds very abstract. All people talk about time management. So if you could convert it into an action step, what would it be?
I have this thing now where and this is a new skill that I guess I've just learned, like to write down your ideal time. Imagine your whole week of all the things that you want to do in a week. Ideally, this is how you want your week to go, right? And then based on that week, and imagine like a calendar, like put blocks of time. Okay, I'm gonna spend 2 hours on this thing, and then I'm gonna spend 5 hours of deep work. I'm gonna spend like 2 hours for eating and like doing all of the life, 1 hour for gym. And imagine plan out your whole week as like an ideal time, and then try your best to. And even right now, like I see that that timetable that I created, and I'm able to manage my time a little bit better because I know where I'm at with certain things. And I would tell Sharifa that, and I think that would help her manage her time a little bit better in this. And I think a lot of the times, especially younger 3 month Sharifa, 3 month younger Sharifa had a lot of life stuff. I think balancing, what she wants with work, with meeting friends, with her hobbies, and it can be hard um, to do all of that at a last minute thing. If I at the time, I think I was it was very hard for me to, okay, I got this invite today, I'm gonna go to this invite. I got this invite for tomorrow, I'm gonna go to this invite. And then before I know it, my whole week was full of like events and parties, and like not the best that not the best strategy at managing time. Absolutely. So having a little bit more balanced way of looking at life and creating this table of ideal time, I think would be helpful for her, as I think it has been helpful for me. It's one of the things that I've started doing for the last month, and it's been good.
So, in other words, like having or understanding, like, so this is my week. This is the composition of my week, and that is the amount of time
Yep.
that I preferably want to dedicate. To
Yes,
each.
and put it on the calendar. Put it on the calendar, and block of time. I think it helps with visualizing how you want to spend your time.
Mhm.
And because I think 3 months ago, even right now, sometimes I feel like, wait, I spend a whole day, and then I'm like, what did I even do again? But if you have this visualization tool to see, okay, these are the things that I was doing and will be doing, it's I think it has been quite helpful for me to manage my time a little bit better.
And we talked about the circle in the beginning, and I just want to comment on the circle now.
Mm-hmm.
That I think like there is a misconception of people trying to bring all the like elements, a part of the circle, to the equilibrium, right? Or like have them about the same level. Well, life is not having your things, like it's not about having your things on the like equilibrium. You cannot have like always like all like family, business, hobbies, everything like to the top, right? Because our time is limited. So for me, the circle is
Mm-hmm.
about seeing where you are and where you want to get, but it usually means if you want to add to one area, then you have to like lower on another area. So it may be also like seeing, visualizing the circle first. Maybe this would help you later to bring it to your own week to see like, yeah, so pretty much the same.
Exactly. I definitely see life in a way is all about managing and having balance, or at least that's has always been something that I'm optimizing for in my life. Having as much balance as possible is key for me to feel good. And I think I know everyone optimizing for different things in life.
Exactly.
Yeah. For me, it is optimizing for balance, but I do agree that like within the wheel of life, it's more of a tool for me to evaluate, okay, how do I feel about different areas of my life, and what are the areas that maybe I want to now concentrate a little bit more, given that, like you said, like time is finite, like it's not infinite. We have just dedicated amount of time every day. We have 24 hours. So if we do spend more time on this area, we won't have enough time to spend on another area. I agree with that. But I do feel like in a conceptually, like as a whole, if you look at what are the areas, and for me, this is a key to be also feel good about yourself and feel good about your life. What are the areas that you feel is lacking, and use that wheel of life sort of as a visualization tool. Okay, I feel like there's a potential for me to work on this bit. So maybe I would now focus a little bit more time to this area, rather than always optimizing for, because I don't think you can get that either. Like
And I would add
all
in the idea that for different people and the different stages of life, this balance is different. It can be like even the balance itself, it can be different.
different. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I know. I have. I was talking to a friend recently, and he was telling me that he has a lot of stuff that he likes doing, but because he's on a journey as an entrepreneur. But right now, what I'm optimizing for is, what I'm focusing for is this, which is my entrepreneurship journey, and that's that. Not Makes sense. Um, you know, I think it would be nice if we could just have someone do it all the time, but that's obviously not realistic. So I think having is very key to knowing like what stage of life are you at, what is it that you want to achieve from this time, and how to best optimize for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like before you mentioned it, I now switching topic pretty radically.
Okay. It's okay.
Following Instagram influencer that is teaching on AI. So I would imagine you are trying to find AI tools that you can implement in your own work to increase the productivity, to like become more efficient, get new ideas, etc. So what are the tools that you tried or you are currently using?
Well, one comment on that. I think
Okay.
it's more that I want to find out and develop or help within development of AI tools to bridge into what I'm doing, versus using current tools that's already out there to help me working on stuff. It's
Mhm.
more that I'm seeing it as an opportunity to venture into AI and bridge the gap between what I'm doing and AI, if that makes sense. Um,
Can you
versus
bring some example?
So, for example, recently there's a founder who reached out to me about a platform that he was developing. Um, I think there's a lot of that opportunities for creating and building new or using AI technologies into my field right now. And so I'm more interested in like understanding just the whole as a landscape of what are things, what are happening in that world. um, if at some point I see an idea where, wait, I think this could be easily applied to what I'm doing, then maybe I want to pursue it. So my content consumption is more related to that. However, I do use AI on a daily basis for my work, i.e., I use ChatGPT all the time. That's the extent of AI tool that I've been using. Um, but I do have a lot of fun with using ChatGPT from day to day. And I think it helps me with all aspects of life, not just my work, but also, I get relationship advice from ChatGPT. I get cooking recipes or, ideas on what to cook. I get my grocery list from ChatGPT. So I do try to optimize my use, my subscription with ChatGPT and get a whole bunch of output from it. Does that
Um,
answer the question?
no, that was a really good answer to my question. And then looking at the future of the health tech, what incremental changes do you see happening in the next 3 years, especially with AI?
Yes. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity, or the industry as a whole moving towards more informed patient being or making more informed decisions on their health. And I think a lot of there's a lot of companies, AI companies, are going towards this area in which informing or developing like a loop of, okay, these are the data that we have, and these are the medication that they should get based on that, or these are the more tailored advice based on user specific data. And I think a lot of that has to do with machine learning and AI and optimizing for best solution for patient, but a little bit more tailored solution for patients. I think that's definitely in a direction that I've been seeing a lot in terms of taking care, like empowering health for users. Um, so that's one aspect. A lot of companies have already used a lot of not AI specific, but machine learning to have better data. For example, one of the products that I've been working on is uh, has been optimizing for better eye data and using machine learning to do that. And this is thinking about an eye measurement on an eye exam that you get for if you were to do a cataract surgery, for example. Um, and there's already a lot of softwares out there that optimize for just better data and better output using AI and ML, machine learning.
So
Yeah.
diagnosis and tests.
Test and diagnosis, yes. I'm trying to think what else is out there, but
Yeah.
I think to some extent this is probably what I've been sort of looking into and consuming.
Okay, this would be two main changes, two main directions.
I think so, but it's definitely an exciting time. I can't say like how excited I am just thinking about all of these things. I'm not a techno. I don't know if you know this term, techno deterministic person. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have to be a little bit more techno deterministic, i.e., you see technologies and you believe the essence of technology and how it can really impact and change lives. I'm a little bit more apprehensive. I think technology can be good or bad, but I am excited about all the technologies that are coming out for especially within healthcare. It's an exciting time. But I also have been watching. Well, I guess this is not really about technology. I've been watching this documentary on a man with 1,000 kids or something like that. I want to say this is about technology. It's really not about technology because it really has nothing to do with I guess IVF or anything like that. It's I don't know if you've heard about this documentary. It's quite scary, but basically a man is in Netherlands he has over 1,000 kids in Netherlands and everywhere else in the world. He has been a sperm donor, but kind of a serial donor, and he has this I guess issue with it, such that he's just been donating and lying about it. That one day they all found out that all of these kids are looking similar, and over I think 500 kids alone in Netherlands right now were fathered by this man.
Wow.
And it's hard to say if it's about technology or not, but I've yet to finish the documentary, but it's a bit scary world that we're living in right now.
Yeah, but definitely healthcare is one of the areas which will benefit the most from the new technologies.
Absolutely.
That's indeed exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, I definitely see you in the nearest future as a part of a healthcare startup. So
Yes. No, I need to believe more in myself, and it's really less about that. I think I once I start thinking of myself as like now I kept saying like, oh no, I'm a gym rat. Like I think it definitely motivates me more into going to the gym. So if I think this like whole mind exercise and believing in yourself, and I have a friend who like talks to the mirror every day and tell I can't remember what's the word, like validation, like affirmative validation words, and I think it's helping. So keep saying that I'm this next generation female health tech founder. Maybe I'll get there.
yeah, and also again, I think it's like misconception is that you have to know everything from the beginning, because you don't, and you cannot be like when you are starting an expert in marketing and sales and everything, but you get to learn it once you start. And for example, recently I met a couple like of founders, a girl and a guy. Guys has like a good experience like in working as a marketing specialist, like a director in big companies. A girl, she is like PhD researcher on biotechnology. She was doing research on like the new sugar production, and they met, and he liked her idea, she liked him, so they are now working together. But
maybe that's what I should do. Find a
Exactly. You have team, like you don't go alone. You have team to support you and to bring these qualities or skills that you do not have.
I was gonna say find a boyfriend who
Oh, no, the couple
works
actually,
with
the couples are not dating. Like I was referring to them as couple, but a couple of co-founders, but maybe also a boyfriend. I mean, the opportunities are big.
No, I agree, and I think it's a lot of it is too. It's like the people that you know. I do feel maybe like if I have a little bit more bigger circles of like people who are in the entrepreneurship or works, like, by that alone, it definitely increases the chance of. And like you said, I don't need to know a lot before starting. It's really just that self determination of like wanting to do it.
And from the side, if you want a side perspective, you then know a lot, maybe not about entrepreneurship, but about your industry. And it's
Yeah,
a super valuable asset.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Sharifa, it was a pleasure to have you. Yeah, let's say, what last advice would you like to give to any woman who is starting her entrepreneurship journey?
Yes. I think first and foremost, I want to say that we could do it. I know it is less common to see female founders and entrepreneurs in the world. And one of the reasons why I love this program is because it brings out, a lot of other female founders and entrepreneurs that who wants to be entrepreneurs. And I think that's really key to having a more diverse products. And I have seen myself what if a product is not ever worked by a woman or having woman perspective, what happens to it. um, and and I think the world would be a much better place if more women built and create and be in this space of entrepreneurship. So my advice would be to do it. um, if there's anything that you're curious about, try it out. I think the best way of learning is to do and try. And I would just encourage people to do it and try, and that we could do it. I don't know if
That's,
that's enough of an advice, but yeah.
that's beautiful and good thing to remember for ourselves.
Amazing. I know. I think it can definitely get intimidating. I've never really thought about I mean, this is I know we're already at the last minute, but I know, for example, when I was in the US, I was working in women in engineering sort of program mentorship, and we would go to schools and we would hear all of these stories about how there's this misconception at the time, at least, girls who didn't want to get into math or science because they were told that they're not smart enough to do it. And that's the biggest lie, misconception that I've obviously have ever heard. And it saddened me so much that that was happening. But I think if we just encourage more people, women especially, to try and do it, we're not any different than the men out there who works on entrepreneurs. Like, I don't see, at least for myself, like I don't see the reason why I'm not doing the things. For example, being in entrepreneurship is because I'm a woman. And then so if that is holding you back, please do not let it be, because that is not true. And we're as much or even smarter than some of the boys sometimes. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cannot agree more. Okay. Thank you so much, Sharifa.
thank you, Yulia, for having me. This was really fun. I